but it wasn't because I didn't know enough. Welcome to Radio Bravery Live. I'm Justin Belshaw, I'm your host. YouTube.com/RadioBravery is the website. I don't know how to start, other than sometimes you feel a little exhausted, sometimes you feel a little broken, sometimes you feel a little down. Today's a rough day. Sometimes I feel a little crazy. Sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed. But I'm going to be here every day either way, and I'm going to be here for you because I love you, and I want you to be empowered with knowledge, and I want to expand your information, your horizons, your spectrum, and your love. I'm making t-shirts pretty soon. They are going to say something like love and knowledge and Radio Bravery. I don't know. This is Radio Bravery Live. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Justin Belshaw. The website is youtube.com/RadioBravery, facebook.com/RadioBravery. The beta site is radiobravery.wixsite.com/news, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at RadioBravery. I don't know, I don't even really use Twitter that much, but I either should or I should leave it. I'm not sure. But thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe today, youtube.com/RadioBravery. We've got a lot of news to cover, and I don't think you're crazy. I think you should know too much. I think you should know more, and I think you should be empowered with knowledge. Sorry, I'm just having a hard day. My mind is everywhere, all over the map. But we've got a lot of news to cover, and we've got to stay positive, we've got to stay focused, and we've got to stay strong. Oh, thank you so much. We are live. YouTube.com/RadioBravery. That's Gnarls Barkley bringing us in with crazy, because sometimes you just feel crazy. And today is one of those days. But we'll make it through together if we just unify. We just help empower each other, love each other, and be there for each other. We can do this together. And we can make it to 2018 and beyond. Thank you so very much for joining me. Thank you so much for following me. I now have 25 subscribers. I'm averaging one more a day, and I really hope to continue this trend. Baby steps are the only way to go. Patience is my ultimate virtue, next to love. Let's go ahead and jump to this first video that I want to play for you, which is from Campus Reform. They have one of my favorite YouTube channels. They have 37,000 subscribers, and the video is entitled "Students Support New Pocahontas Policy, Allowing Applicants to Self-Identify as People of Color." This is mental illness, in my opinion, and what do you think I should identify is the real question. How should Radio Bravery identify himself? How should Radio Bravery identify? That is the question. And we will see how the students of Brown University feel about now being able to self-identify as people of color, or anything they want, any color they want, any race they want, even though it's always great to remember we are all one race, the human race. And that is the most important thing to remember, just like Martin Luther King said, just like Larry Pinkney said, says continually, as the FBI watches him. We need to unify. It is not about color. We need to stop talking about our color. We need to stop living in racial politics and racial identity politics. That is the most... the strongest way to divide and conquer is racial identity politics, and they've tried this before and it was overcome, and now we are in a war right now to love ourselves for whoever we are and love each other for whoever they are. It does not matter the color of your skin. It does not matter. It should be completely irrelevant. And the more we stop talking about it, the more we stop empowering it. So let it go, everyone. Let it go. Racial division is the tool of the people who want to control and enslave us. So let's go to this video from Campus Reform.
I'm Captain Phillips with Campus Reform. Today we're at Brown University, where a new policy was enacted giving students the ability to self-identify as people of color on their application process. What do students think of this new policy? Let's find out. This school is giving students the chance to self-identify, in their words, as whether they feel as if they're a person of color on the application process. Some people are calling this the Pocahontas policy because students can simply check something that they don't apply to. What do you think? You think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Overall, I think it's a good thing.
I think this is a positive aspect. It's intended to create an atmosphere of inclusion and support diversity, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Including that would be a really great move.
If somebody identifies as something, it should be their right to.
I think it would generally be a positive thing.
People should be granted all the options that they feel necessary to express themselves in that way.
If the goal is student comfort and attracting a more diverse student body, then I don't see it as particularly harmful.
I feel weird talking about this as not a person of color.
What if you feel like one, though?
Really, you feel weird talking about it as not a person of color. That is the entire point. Because you are not a person of color, and you should not be able to identify as one. Because you are not. Because color is visual, and I visually see you are not a person of color. Why are we allowing people to decide whatever race they are or however they want to identify? It is absolutely ridiculous. Now let's go back to this person as he is trying to figure out where his mind is going, because he is starting to click.
If the school came to someone who falsely claimed...
Let's go back to that.
As...
I don't see it as particularly harmful.
I feel weird talking about this as not a person of color.
What if you feel like one, though? If the school came to someone who falsely claimed to be a person of color and said, you're not, what if the person has said, I am, I identify that way? Okay. I mean, that's...
I don't think I have the option to change my ethnicity.
Okay, but why is it different than gender?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think it's intended for those people that, want to identify as a person of color or whatever it may be.
Is racial identity something that is fluid over someone's life?
I feel like people tend not to, try and make up their identity. I feel like something that people themselves know better than people who don't know them, and something that society likes to put on them.
I think that gender is something that is inside of you and that you feel, whereas ethnicity has ties to culture and heritage and tradition.
If people come from multiracial backgrounds or just want to choose that as an option and a way to express themselves, I think it's important that people have as many options, especially at a predominantly white institution.
So that is the clip from Campus Reform. You can find them on youtube.com/Campus Reform. Incredible. That is where our society continues to go, as we are now allowing at Brown University people to identify whatever racial ethnicity they decide. That's just, you have the choice now. So what do you want Radio Bravery to identify? That is the question. We will find out. Now let's go ahead and jump into some news. This is from Newsday, AM New York. The headline is about the New Year's Eve in Times Square to have unprecedented security, more cops, more bomb-sniffing dogs, and more police snipers than ever being deployed by the NYPD for New Year's Eve to protect the 2 million spectators to cram in Times Square to usher in the 2018. NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill said counterterrorism planners are heeding lessons from recent terror attacks. including 3 in Manhattan September 2016. People will be safe, and they should feel safe too. Beginning at 11 a.m. Sunday, crosstown traffic will be shut down from 37th to 59th Streets. Goes on to say, to stop a suicide bomber from detonating an explosive like the one set off December 11th under the Port Authority bus terminal, officers will search celebrants twice when a person approaches the Times Square area, and again at each designated gathering place, with specially trained dogs and metal detectors, and by officers examining each reveler's bags. So this is basically now the police state has come here as they usher in terrorists left and right with our previous open border policy and ISIS being allowed to promote freely on Twitter and Facebook and all over the net as they just call for more attacks in New York, more attacks on the New Year's Eve celebration there in New York. And it's just, very sad and very disgusting that the people just continue to allow to give up their rights in order for safety and security. That is Thomas Jefferson, who said, if you give up security and safety and freedom or if you give up your rights in the call for, or what, let me just find the actual quote here. So the quote here is by Benjamin Franklin, they that can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Those who sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither. He who would trade liberty for some temporary security deserves neither liberty nor security. That is the quote from Benjamin Franklin, an incredibly profound quote that really echoes today's society. And we really, really need to remember the quotes of those founding fathers that gave us these very simple adages that remind you and remind us of the things that we could be losing and giving up that are absolutely inalienable and given to us as human rights and God-given rights in the country of the United States of America under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that is so very important. That's the reason those people fought and died and risked their lives. And that's why John Hancock signed his signature extremely big and first on the list, because he said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be a target. I know, so I'm going to do it big and I'm going to do it hard. And that's why he wrote this John Hancock Giant, because he knew he was a target and he knew he would be the biggest target. And he said, bring it on. I want you to have freedom and security and true liberty all on your own, and you can find that independently as an American citizen through the Constitution and Bill of Rights. It's inalienable. You have that no matter what, and every time you give up a right, you give up a free choice. And it's so sad they were allowing pathetic pieces of garbage, life's losers like ISIS, to force us to give up our liberties. Now let's move to this next PJ Media article. Always the best website for breaking the life's losers ISIS news. One-legged American ISIS jihadist jabs fake media and dog of Rome, quote, Trump. An American accented ISIS fighter who apparently lost a leg fighting the terror with the terror group was featured in a new Islamic State video calling on Western supporters, including the disabled, to conduct knife or gun attacks. The bearded jihadist is referred to by Nom de Guerre Abu Salih al-Amriki, or the American, and is shown using crutches and an attached prosthetic leg. The inside the Khalifa video released by ISIS official Al Hayat Media Center in English and Arabic. Abu Salih also calls for would-be terrorists to take advantage of gun availability in the United States and attack Americans with guns and knives. He begins by telling wounded jihadists with one leg or no legs that they have no excuse to not strike the kuffar or disbelievers. To the brothers with limbs and no limbs, I challenge you to race toward the gate of Jannah, paradise. Abu Salih says the ISIS flag will be raised above the White House, a common threat from the terror group. Yes, America, you will be overcome from where you least expect it, he adds. And so ISIS continues to threaten attacks here in America and in New York and Washington, D.C., and we need to stop standing for this garbage from absolute life's losers. This next article I want to cover is from BBC.com, BBC News. Iran cities hit by anti-government protests. Large numbers have reportedly turned out in Rost in the north of and Kermanshah in the west, with smaller protests in Isfahan and Hamadan and elsewhere. The protests began against rising prices and have spiraled into a general outcry against clerical rule and government policies. A small number of people have been arrested in Tehran, the capital. They were among a group of 50 people who gathered in a city square. Tehran's Deputy Governor General for Security Affairs told the Iranian labor news agency. So the people in Iran are beginning to rise up against their government, who does not instill the will of the people, does not listen to the people, and does not represent the people. And we will continue to follow that as it unfolds. Then we have this article from Paul Joseph Watson at Infowars.com. Idiot protests Trump by yelling at his robot doll during Disney World show. Trump derangement syndrome claims another victim. The video clip shows Jay Malsky repeatedly screaming, "Lock him up," at the Trump robot, while other audience members, probably concerned about their frightened children, tell him to shut up. One of the audience members informs Malsky that he is literally yelling at a robot, telling him he's not real. I protested at real Donald Trump at the Hall of Presidents because I'll never get this close to in real life probs. Lock him up, tweeted Malsky, eliciting a barrage of ridicule against him. Quote, Disney World is a private park and has a set of guidelines and standards to ensure guests have a good experience. That video is disgusting and immature. Families trying to enjoy their vacations, not listen to your friends' ridiculous shouting, responded Kenny Lazuski. Malsky doubled down on his idiocy, suggesting that his protest was legitimate because Disney is a public institution, as it's a publicly traded company. Like that matters. It's a place for children, dude. Leave your politics at home. Shut up. You're yelling at a robot, you idiot. It doesn't mean anything and you're not helping anything. You're scaring kids and you're ruining people's good times. Quote, you don't know the difference between a publicly traded company and a private property. Neat, one user responded. Quote, awful. I can't imagine how scared and confused some of those children were. In a tweet that he subsequently deleted, Malsky posted a picture of the Trump robot and remarked, okay, are we allowed to say that we want to murder this? No, you're not. You're not allowed to make death threats against the president. You're not allowed to make death threats against anyone because it's illegal. It's inciting violence. Stop inciting violence. Stop calling for murder, you crazy, crazy lunatics. Quote, no matter what people visiting Walt Disney World may think about Donald Trump, he is the current president of the United States, writes Danny Cox. With that designation, he has been added to the Hall of Presidents inside Magic Kingdom. Whether people respect him or believe that someone should lock him up, if someone doesn't want to see him in the attraction, they can simply bypass it, which would be better than being escorted out after screaming at an audio animatronic. Yeah, dude, you just make yourself look like a complete nutcase, and you just scared a bunch of kids, and if you actually think Trump should be removed, you're discrediting your movement. People, I mean, I'm sorry, but this person is probably mentally ill. And he needs to be evaluated psychologically because you're yelling at a robot in front of children, dude. Relax. Calm down. It's not the end of the world. Trump deported 34% less Mexicans than Obama. I mean, all the things you think are so awful are not really happening. This is Trump derangement syndrome. The next article I'm going to cover is from Russia Today, RT.com. Forgotten in hell. Half of abducted Iraqi Yazidi girls remain in ISIS captivity and sex slavery. I'm going to go ahead and go to this video for you so you can see for yourself the sadness that is going on because of the trash, the life's losers, anti-human ISIS. This is from Russia Today.
Thousands of Kurdish-speaking Yazidis are still being kept hostage. Many of them are minors, abducted and sold at the jihadist slave markets in the past few years.
This is so sad.
RT's Murad Gazdiev reports now on their long way home from terrorist captivity.
Nadia, age 10, location
10 years old.
Idlib,
Wow.
starting bid $10,000.
Wow.
Russia, age 9, location Turkey, starting bid $15,000.
These people are sick.
Ines, age 8, location Syria, starting bid $13,000. Nadi, age 15, location Baghdad, sold for $2,500. Nadi was kidnapped by ISIS in Mosul in 2015. For near enough 3 years, she endured horrible things.
I just want to pause this clip and just commend this journalist. This guy is true bravery. This is true radio bravery. And this guy is a true humanitarian. I just want to take my hat off and give this guy a round of applause. This guy is incredibly brave. He is in Baghdad, Iraq, reporting right there exclusively on Forgotten in Hell. Half of the Yazidis abducted by ISIS still missing. And this guy is just a true human.
No 15-year-old girl or any woman should ever have to endure. 2 hours ago, she was brought back by her family here in Baghdad. No one called the police. No one wanted to risk her life. She spent her first hour of freedom crying in the hotel room. Bear in mind, ISIS tells its hostages that their families will kill them if they ever return. But her rest would be brief.
Ask her how she is. We're very sorry that so many people, but everybody's so happy to see her.
Shortly after our meeting, her relatives took her shopping. She was rescued by a group of men who specialize in tracking down Yazidis kidnapped by ISIS. They then either negotiate a sale or steal them back. They're big on secrecy.
ISIS say that if we show the girls still in their possession, or if their relatives appear on TV, the deal will be off, that they'd kill their hostages.
As such, some of the people involved didn't want to appear on camera, but their stories are chilling.
One of the girls was kidnapped when she was 10, and ISIL rapes her for 2 or 3 years. I can take you to a house here where there are several girls, 10, 11, 12 years old, who were all raped. They were gifted or sold as many as 15 times.
If not for sexual pleasure, ISIS brainwashes Yazidi children and sends them on suicide missions or sells them for money.
When ISIS fighters flee to Turkey, they sell their slaves because they need money to go back to their home countries.
You may not know, but when the US-led coalition and their allies in Syria reportedly let hundreds of ISIS fighters leave the then besieged Raqqa, those jihadists took not only their guns and families, but also their hostages and slaves. The same people that are now being brought back.
The prices vary depending on where they are. If they're in a dangerous place, it can be $80,000. Otherwise, around 10, 15,000.
Others are also tracking down missing people. One Iraqi MP has made a name for herself rescuing children. She spent her own money buying out several of these kids.
One of the girls told me the story of her escape. She and her aunt were in ISIS captivity. Two of the terrorists watched them day and night to prevent them from running away. Then the girl told one of them that she couldn't sleep and asked to see a doctor. The ISIS fighter gave her some sleeping pills. She kept them, then put them in his tea. The terrorist fell asleep and she and her aunt managed to escape. The girl was 8 years old. Her aunt was too terrified to do anything, so the girl told her, "Let's try and run away. They will kill us anyway." And they escaped.
3,000 Yazidis are still missing. Hundreds presumed held by ISIS. The international community no longer really cares. Yazidis don't attract the same ratings now that they aren't being slaughtered. So it's up to them to recover their own children and to help them heal from what ISIS has done to them. Murad Gazdiev, RT, from Dohuk, Iraq.
That is just an incredible video from Russia Today, RT News. Just incredibly sad and heartbreaking. You know, it brings me to tears. I was in tears earlier watching it, and I cannot stand for this. I have to shed light on this darkness with positivity, and we have to kill this darkness with light. That is the only way, is to shed light on the evil and end it. We need to end this now and save these children, save these people who are in captivity. Oh, it's so unfortunate. Let's move to this next article here. Oh, this is from Breitbart.com. Accept the will of the people on migration, culture, or hit the road, Orban tells Europe's leaders. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said that Europeans are asserting their will by supporting leaders who reject mass migration and support Christian foundations, and gave a warning to politicians who deny the natural order of democracy. The conservative Fidesz's leader told Kossuth Radio's listeners that 2.3 million Hungarians took part in the national consultation against the George Soros-backed pro-mass migration plan, and Mr. Orban now intends to spend the next few months convincing his opponents that Europe is right to protect her borders and her culture. Asked by the 180 Minutes host what made him think about that after 2 years since the migrant crisis, progressive leaders would listen now, Orban said, because in the meantime, elections are being held in Europe. Those who argue for a mixed population and to abolish societies based on national and Christian foundations in favor of living in multicultural societies are continually losing ground and national elections, as they should. We need to support real nationalism and freedom for those countries and not be forced to accept an evil culture of enslavement and rape and kidnapping and torture and murder. And that is all that ISIS and radical Islam brings. Now this next article is from BBC.com. New Year's Eve party in Berlin to have safe zone for women. Organizers of Berlin's New Year's Eve celebrations are to set up a safe zone for women for the first time. The new security measures planned for the Brandenburg Gate party come amid concerns about sexual assaults. A large number of the assaults and robberies targeting women at Cologne's New Year's Eve celebrations 2 years ago horrified Germany. Hundreds of women reported being attacked by gangs of men with migrant backgrounds and raped in giant rape gangs of pieces of garbage. The events in Cologne heightened tensions in the country over the large influx of refugees and migrants. 1.1 million people arrived in Germany in 2015, some, but by no means all, fleeing violence in Syria and Iraq. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to attend a New Year's Eve party in Berlin on Sunday, and security will be strict. Women who have been assaulted or feel harassed will be able to come get support in the special safety zone. Why don't they just stop the rapings from happening by deporting these criminal scumbags who go out in their rape gangs and target women over and over and over and over and over again? Just absolutely insane. Oh, it's so crazy. Cologne officials put up a security point, but the idea of having a special safe zone for women at a large public event has not been welcomed by everyone. Critics say it does not tackle the perpetrators of sexual violence, while some others claim it is discriminatory. It is pathetic, is what it is. Instead, these people need to stand up for themselves and stand up for their country and stand up for the people of their country and say no more rape gangs, no more scum radical Islam that wants to go out and harass other cultures that don't agree with them. It is not acceptable anymore. Just so frustrating to see this. All I want is for everyone to be safe and able to pursue happiness and freedom and safety and the expectation of safety when they go out on the streets without being cornered and attacked by groups of radical Islamic scum. Next is from the Daily Mirror. Inside brutal dog industry where strays are beaten to death with hammers and served in €1.65 curries. A photographer who gained access to a slaughterhouse and dog meat restaurant has revealed his shocking images to raise awareness about the horrifying practice. These shocking images lift the lid on Indonesia's dog meat industry, where stray pooches are beaten to death with hammers and served in curries for just for €1.65, 1.65 euros. Photographer Iko Siswano Toyodo took the graphic pictures after gaining access to a dog slaughterhouse in Jakarta through a friend who runs a dog meat restaurant. The 37-year-old said stray dogs are bought for 150,000 to 250,000 rupa. Oh, excuse me, not euros. Rupa. Depending on their size, and chained up and fed rice and vegetables in a quarantine house. He witnessed dogs being beaten to death with hammers in the tourist hotspot before their meat was chopped up and cooked with special spices in a nearby restaurant. Absolutely messed up. This is horrible. This is absolute abuse of animals and of humans too, as they're feeding these beat, tortured dogs to people in restaurants. So that is out of the dailymirror.com. The next one I'm going to go to here is from Infowars.com, and this is from Infowars reporter Millie Weaver, who's always very articulate, great reporter, always breaking really great stories. And we're going to watch this video, warning USDA organic fraud on the rise. Fraud epidemic threatens credibility of USDA organic certification. Now we will go to this video from Millie Weaver, the great Millie Weaver. Beautiful and great. Just an awesome reporter, and always very articulate and intelligent. I love watching her reports, and we'll go to this right now.
Others have been exposing what they're putting in the water, what GMO food's doing, from the real science. This is only the tip of the iceberg. This is what you're feeding your family, and this is eugenics. The globalists stated they were going to develop soft kill weapons so they can give you something that makes you sick, debilitates you, and kills you in 10, 15, 20 years, and then the doctors aren't told how to diagnose it, and they don't know what's happening.
What do you like to eat? I personally prefer to eat organic food. You know, knowing that your food isn't a genetically modified organism and doesn't have chemical pesticides sprayed on them. So therefore, I'm willing to pay a higher premium for the cost of my apples, my produce, and my meat and my dairy, because I don't want to have tainted food. What if I were to tell you that USDA organic food that you're purchasing at your local grocery store could in fact not be organic? And it could actually even be sometimes worse than conventional. I can't believe I'm even saying this. How is it worse? Well, it's quite simple. This fraud epidemic within the organic farming community is threatening the credibility of the USDA organic certification. I assumed that it meant that that food was produced with a certain level of quality and cleanliness, and it was free from toxins, GMOs, and other things. But it turns out that now you have these profiteers trying to go and turn a penny by essentially selling GMO and conventionally grown pesticide-filled foods to consumers with this USDA certificate. The USDA doesn't even have the enforcement power to oversee all of these farms, especially those overseas. Now let me set this straight. Fraudulent organic certification is nothing new, but the problem is it's greatly on the rise. Now, over 40% of all organic certified food in the United States tests positive for high amounts of pesticides.
That is incredible.
That means that
40%.
most of us are actually consuming pesticide-ridden food when we think we're consuming organic food. Could this epidemic be because we're seeing such a high quantity of food pouring in from foreign nations? Currently, 80% of the organic food in America comes from foreign countries. Most of these farms with fraudulent organic certifications come from countries such as Brazil, China, India, Malaysia, and South Africa. According to the Washington Post, there was a shipment of nearly 36 million pounds of soybeans that sailed from the Ukraine to Turkey to California. But get this, the soybeans started as ordinary pesticide-sprayed soybeans, and by the time they reached California, they had been certified as USDA organic by a middleman, and those middlemen profited a whopping $4 million off of that lie. And this was just one shipment of 3 containing millions of pounds of soybeans and corn that was then dumped into the American marketplace with the label USDA Certified Organic. And get this, USDA certifying companies are only required to do pesticide testing on only 5% of the farm businesses that they certify. What? Congress is now weighing legislation that would roughly double the USDA's budget to oversee USDA organic certified farms. But let's get real. When has throwing more money at a government agency actually fixed any problem? Some have said, well, try farmers markets. Problem is, fraudsters and pirates have also infiltrated the farmers markets. Now, fraudsters just go and buy wholesale from conventional farmers that spray and have genetically modified foods, and then they just go turn a profit at the farmers markets because they know that the consumer is willing to pay a higher premium on food that they think was quality grown. Don't feel bad because they duped me too. I purchased tons of USDA organic certified foods at the store, and I'm sure a good portion of those foods are organic, and it is worth my buck. But yeah, I'm sure I've consumed a bunch of GMO and pesticide-ridden food that I ended up paying a premium on. It seems to me that the only real solution here is that Americans need to take back their food quality into their own hands. That's right, we can't be relying on foreign corporations to provide us the quality of food that we demand. Because at the end of the day,
most of the video there from Millie Weaver, as we are a little short on time here at Radio Bravery, Radio Bravery Live, youtube.com/Radio Bravery. That's Millie Weaver for Infowars.com with the incredibly breaking, just unbelievable article of USDA fraud. 40% of USDA organic items are actually fraudulently labeled organic. This next article from AccuWeather.com, piercing cold blast to feel sub-zero in central northeastern U.S. in time for 2018. Cold wave to hold in east Midwest through New Year's Day. Cold air rivaling that of the past 100 years for late December and early January will make it painful to be outdoors and may lead to damage in the central and northeastern United States. In the coming days, real field temperatures 5 to 20 degrees below zero will be common. And that is more news in the global cooling news realm. The next article here I'm going to cover is also in the global cooling epidemic going on right now. Dog found frozen solid on central Toledo porch. Yeah, folks, a dog was frozen solid in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio. The Toledo Area Humane Society is investigating the death of a dog in central Toledo that was found outside and frozen solid. The female dog had died after curling up on the front porch of a house in the 1000 block of King Street. I don't know how long she was there. Megan Brown, a cruelty investigator for the Humane Society, said she was frozen solid. So that is just very, very sad and very disgusting. I cannot believe that someone left their dog out there, but that's more global cooling as we are reaching a giant cooling phase of the Earth, as critics were completely wrong about global warming for the last 15 years. Proponents like Al Gore just trying to get your millions of dollars and take control of your free rights. Now this next article we're going to go to is from the NewYorkPost.com, NYPost.com. All the times this year Florida put the F in WTF. And there's a few crazy things of one of the 49 or one of the 50 states here in America. Fake doc gets prison for deadly butt injections, as this woman, oh my gosh, this is an incredible picture of this really messed up person whose butt just, oh my gosh, it's like womping out like this far out of their body. Murder suspect who used big penis defense found not guilty. News chopper spots alligator eating body of plane crash victim. Woman films herself giving oral sex in courthouse. This is what crime does to your face. Floridian Robert Hardister has been arrested many times over the past 8 years. He has increasingly tatted up mugshots to prove it. Then we have couple busted during 4 local fueled sex on beach. Wife arrested for punching husband after he interrupted her pleasuring herself. Police impersonator messes with the exact wrong guy. Teen allegedly raped neighbor, offered yard work to make up for it. Teacher smoked weed, drank with students to set mood before sex. Couple busted for having public sex in front of cops. Naked Instagram models unleashes towel whip and mule kick on cops. And those are some of the headlines out of the psychotic state of Florida. And again, I don't think everyone in Florida is psychotic. One of my best friends is from Florida, but apparently got out of that hellhole. All the times this year, Florida put F in WTF. Now the next article is from the WashingtonTimes.com. Which is more and more a pretty good mainstream media news website. Not everything they say is that great, but some headlines are better than others. But this one, wow, this one hits sure close to home. Appeals court rules against Oregon bakers, fined $135,000 in gay wedding cake dispute. And this, folks, is just... all you need to know is that as Americans, we have the right to vote with our dollars, okay? If you don't like these bakers' choice to not make cakes for a gay wedding, then don't shop at the bakers. And if you want to shut them down by, getting everyone you know to not shop there, and if you want to post things about them being, anti-gay, I am all for that. I'm all about that. I think it's, you know, silly and stupid and petty that these owners of sweet cakes in Gresham, Oregon, didn't want to make a bake a cake for a gay couple, but they have the liberty, they have the free right to do that, in my opinion. But in its decision, Oregon Court of Appeals upheld an administrative law judge's ruling that Melissa and Aaron Klein, owners of Sweet Cakes by Melissa, violated a public accommodations law barring discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. Kelly Shackelford, president of the First Liberty Institute, a religious liberty law firm representing the Kleins, said he was disappointed by Thursday's decision. Quote, freedom of expression for ourselves should require freedom of I can't speak today. Freedom of expression for ourselves should require freedom of expression for others, Mr. Shackelford said in a statement. Today, the Oregon Court of Appeals decided that Aaron and Melissa Klein are not entitled to the Constitution's promises of religious liberty and free speech. In a diverse and pluralistic society, people of goodwill should be able to peacefully coexist with different beliefs. Exactly. You shouldn't be able to force people to do something in their private business through a public law. That is not the way this country works. And I hope that they're going to appeal this again because... or honestly, they should take it to the Supreme Court because this is just unconstitutional. And again, I do not side with these people. If I were running a cake shop myself, I would bake a cake for gay people. It's so silly and petty, but they have the religious and free right to do that as business owners. They can decline any customer they want. They withhold that right. And that is what having a private business is all about. And it's just sad that the Oregon Court of Appeals is doing crap like this and trying to stop people from their religious freedoms or free speech or free right to own a private business and withhold the right to deny service to anybody they please. The next article I was going to go to was from ZeroHedge.com. But of course, that site is now currently down on Google. Wow, well, I guess we'll continue to cover that breaking news. Every time I try to load it, it says this page isn't working. ZeroHedge.com is currently unable to handle this request. Maybe they have too many people, too much traffic on their website. Nope, I can't even go to ZeroHedge.com. But the headline from ZeroHedge.com was 2 California professors say farmers markets are racist, normalizing habits of white people. Yes, folks, now farmers markets are also racist. Add one more to the hashtag 100 things that are racist in 2017. It's now 101 things that are racist. Farmer markets are racist. Don't you forget it. That is the headline from ZeroHedge.com. If you can actually get there, apparently their site is currently down. But we will continue to cover it. I'll probably cover that again tomorrow, and hopefully I can pull up the article and read more about it. But until then, I've got to get to my day job that I barely scratch a living by through, and we'll have to cover more tomorrow on Radio Bravery Live, youtube.com/RadioBravery. And I'll take you out with a little more Gnarls Barkley because I don't think you're crazy. I think you just know too much. And maybe I do too. But I'd like to empower you with the power of knowledge. Follow the headlines. No pseudo-intellectuals here. No pseudoscience here. Just headlines, facts, and research. Do your own research. Don't trust me. Trust your gut. Think for yourself. The mainstream media is a crock of liars. I love you, I support every single one of you, no matter what color, creed, or race you are. We are all the human race. We must unite and stop thinking about color and being divided and conquered. I love you so much. Please subscribe today, youtube.com/RadioBravery. I'm Justin Belshaw. You're not crazy. Just stay positive, stay strong. We will make it through this. Thank you so much.